Playbook, a football podcast. With your hosts, Ashley and Michael, please sit back and enjoy the show.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Undroppables Playbook, a football podcast presented by the Undroppables. I am your host, Ashley. This is my lovely co-host, Michael Duncan. How are you?
I haven't felt happiness like this in about 7 or 8 years.
Yeah.
It's a good feeling. I'll be honest.
I'm sure. It's been a long time for me.
Did you see my new jersey?
Let me see. I did see the patch. Oh, take it off.
That's a really weird thing for you to say to me, Ashley.
Can't say I love.
Keep it professional, okay?
Can't say I love.
I do.
Don, you got the hat on too?
I do. And for those listening, it's a Saquon Barkley jersey with the Super Bowl patch.
The Super Bowl patch and a Philadelphia Eagles Super Bowl champions hat, because the Philadelphia Eagles are your 2024-2025 Super Bowl champions.
Yes, they are.
That they are. How was the parade?
Parade. It was so fun. I was going to end with that, but I think we should talk about it first, honestly. So some highlights. First of all, on a personal note, the last time the Eagles won, my little cousin was 4 years old, and he got to attend with his dad. This time around, him and his two younger siblings came. They are now 11, 9, and 7, and they all had an awesome time.
Good.
We met this really good group of guys that were right in front of us when we were standing waiting for the parade, and they let all three of the kids kind of take their spots on the barrier. So all the kids, it was really cool.
I don't like when grown adults won't let kids have their moment too. Like, they're small, they're tiny, let them squeeze in between you.
Exactly. And they still got to see everything, and
they
got high fives from Nick Sirianni,
cool.
A couple of the players. It was a really special day. I'm really more than anything, I was happy I got to share it with them. But speaking of kids, Nolan Smith tried to kidnap one.
He did kidnap. He fully kidnapped a kid.
Yep. Picked him up and just started walking away.
Yeah, got really wrapped up in the parade.
He did confirm later on Instagram that he did return the child.
Perfect.
He only made it so far before the cop that was with him kind of was like, "Hey, man, let's not."
Hey, you still have that child. Yeah.
Yeah. So
what a video, fun. Right? If you're that kid, what a video. What
a memory.
That's insane.
Yeah, I mean,
I was like slightly kidnapped by Nolan Smith at the Philadelphia Eagles Super Bowl parade.
I'm sure the dad or the mom was kind of spazzing a little bit. That kid was just like, "Oh, heck yeah, let's go."
Yeah, and
I'm
also like, I don't even know that the parents were. I'm sure they're like, hey, but like,
I'm sure they panicked a little bit more as they got farther away.
Very true.
Because Nolan Smith
was
intoxicated. Yep.
And he got far.
Yep.
Saquon Barkley took one of the ball boys out of the stands like he was a rag doll, like right out of the barricades. Small, big, little Saquon Barkley just grabbed him and like basically like plucked him from the crowd and was like, "Come on."
And they also, which I didn't realize this was not planned, but I believe it was primarily the offensive line that found, and I am completely forgetting his name. Hold on. Eagles parade. But a guy who was Ryan Quigley, who was a survivor from the New Orleans terrorist attack a couple months ago, whenever that was. He was obviously he was a big part of the Eagles, like going to New Orleans. He went back. His best friend died in New Orleans during the attack, and they had made a promise to each other that they would go back if the Eagles went to the Super Bowl. And obviously, he was happy to be able to go back. The team paid for both him and his friend's family to go as well. And what I didn't realize was not planned was he ended up giving a little bit of a speech. He went up with Saquon during the parade speeches, but that was not planned because they actually saw him on the parade route up against the barrier, and the offensive line picked him up and his wheelchair and got him on the bus to do the rest of the parade with them, which was just really cool.
Yeah.
And it's just like it's just extra awesome because, like, I mean, that dude, like, it's not just a media stunt. It's like, obviously these dudes really care about, like, obviously the Eagles players really care about this guy and what he went through. And because, again, like, he there was no expectation that was going to happen. He obviously, like, the Eagles took him to the Super Bowl. They did all this stuff. He was just going to the parade to go to the parade, but they saw him and they were like, "Oh, you're coming up with us, dude." And it was very cool. No Jason Kelsey level speech this time around, but some really great ones. Howie Roseman bleeds for the city, specifically when he gets hit in the head with a beer that is thrown to him that he didn't see.
There's always at least one. There's always at least one.
Yep. So now he has a nice cut on his forehead, but it was pretty intense when he went up there, and just, I bleed for this city, and Howie, you deserve it. We'll talk more about him later, but yeah. And my quarterback is still an absolute sociopath because, I mean,
that man did not want to be on that press tour.
Oh God, no.
Oh my God, he wanted to be in bed in his house with his wife.
I think fiance, but
girlfriend, fiance, whatever they are. All he wanted to do was, like, be an old man on his couch.
He said Disney World was fine.
So yeah, it was fine. That's a high praise.
Yeah, I mean, for Jalen, absolutely.
Yeah,
he did smile a little bit, and if you didn't see, directly after the Super Bowl, Jordan ran maybe one of the greatest ad campaigns that at least I've personally seen in years, which was Love Hurts, Love, Hurts, which is
and the parade was on Valentine's Day.
The parade was, so yep, it gets deeper. So we have this epic campaign that rolls out afterward. It's like, oh, that's sick. It's basically just saying didn't think he could do this, didn't like that he could do that. Well, that sucks. Love hurts. He gets this hoodie. He's wearing a personalized hoodie that says Love Hurts, has the Jordan logo on, at the parade. And they took the very famous Love Park sign, which is the LOVE, and then they put after it I guess Jordan created a sign to match it. A very, well, not like a sign, it's more of like a statue. But comma Hurts, period, with the Jordan logo, and put it right next to the Love Park sign. So that was pretty cool and unexpected as well. But again, just a piece of marketing.
Their copyright is incredible.
Yeah,
their copyright is incredible.
Whoever came up with that campaign, like, just, I mean, like, I hope that you got a raise or something, because you did it. You did good.
Yeah.
So yes.
Yeah, and it was on Valentine's Day thing. That helps, because it was cool to see him wearing the sweatshirt on Valentine's Day.
Yep.
Like double entendre type sweatshirt. I was looking up to see if Andre Howard, the boy in the plane crash, the one we talked about last episode, made it to the parade or anything. He didn't, but AJ Brown did surprise him in the hospital on Thursday.
Yeah, and AJ Brown actually said right after the game, he's like, I'm excited to, go back and party with Philadelphia, but first I have a trip to make. And he was talking specifically. He kept his promise without any hesitation.
He did. On Thursday he was able to go, and I believe he was in rehab at that point, and he was where he went to go see him.
Yep. AJ also getting in a little bit of heat on social media, which has become both incredible and the bane of my existence over the past 2 weeks. But it was because he basically was like, hey, I tried to enjoy being a champion for a couple days, like everyone told me I should, but honestly, I didn't really like it. So I'm not satisfied. And everyone's freaking out. It's like, he just wants to keep winning and playing ball.
Yeah.
Literally,
he just has a way with words, that man. He never says it the right way. He's typical wide receiver.
Well, that is almost straight out of Inner Excellence. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Is like, that is in the first chapter of Inner Excellence. Is pretty much what he said. So really incredible stuff, especially if you're just not paying attention.
Yeah.
But yeah, really, really incredible time. I believe it was, I saw like 1.7 million. I don't know. I don't know if that's what it actually ended up being. But there were a lot of really cool pictures. I
Mhm.
haven't seen many estimations. Yeah, just more than 1 million. So,
Mhm.
but yeah, very, very, very cool. Lots of
Yeah.
cool stuff.
Any highlights that you got to see personally while you were there?
I mean, I got to watch the speeches this time. Last time I left
Mhm.
before the speeches just because of the way life worked out.
Yeah.
So this time I got to watch all the speeches, which was very cool. Again, like honestly, just being able to share that with my little cousins, like that
Mhm.
was really awesome.
Yeah.
Um, did you see that Saquon also bought each of his starting offensive linemen a truck full of Bud Light?
Yes, I
A,
did. It
a,
was
a
part of
truck.
his deal with them.
Yeah. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, just no, I got a picture with the Love Hurts sign. Yeah, just a lot of really, really fun stuff. It's kind of all a little bit of a blur, but I loved every
Yeah.
second of it. So
Good. I'm happy for you. Let's talk about the game.
what game?
The game.
Oh, the reason we had a parade in Philadelphia.
No, like the first preseason game of next year, actually.
Oh, okay. I don't think that's been announced yet.
It
The Hall of
hasn't.
Fame game.
Yes, the Super Bowl.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Let's talk about it. For anyone new here, Duncan is very clearly an Eagles fan. So he's gonna guide this for us today. I will be here for support and to add my 2 cents in, but we're kind of switching roles a little bit today. So Duncan can lead us through what brought the Eagles to that parade on Friday.
Yeah, let's be real. Like this is why I have a podcast.
Yeah, so you
It's in.
can.
It's specific. I'm good now. Like I don't. We can be done. I
Yeah,
specifically just wanted to be able to talk about an Eagles Super Bowl at length with only apparently one person to stop me. Really. So,
yeah, yeah.
um, I
You
yeah.
have
This.
control of the whole thing too. I can't
Yep.
really stop you. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's true. I can stop you. I can play that
Yeah.
video of the Giants losing
I think you would
whenever I
like to
want.
talk about your team.
I would.
Yeah.
Before we get into it, I need to say this because it's been pissing me off. If you have an issue with Jason Kelsey being upset about
Oh my God.
his brother losing the Super Bowl, honestly, go get help because you are not an okay individual.
Yeah.
You're not.
You've
Like
never
you
known
are
love.
you have problems
You've
and you
never
need
known
to seek
love. Yeah.
professional help.
Yeah.
There was a very large collection of Eagles fans that were basically saying, I'm out on Jason Kelsey because he said he didn't cheer for the Eagles. And it's like, you misheard him the entire time because he
Mm-hmm.
said that he was going to be feeling the most for whoever loses.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, this isn't like he watched a close game. He literally watched his brother just kind of get beaten to death for 4 hours.
And
Like,
like barely participate in the game.
yeah, like it's not like this was even a fun watch
Mm-hmm.
unless you're an Eagles fan, which of course Jason was very happy for all the people on the Eagles. He's allowed to
Yeah.
also be upset for his brother, who, by the way, is his brother, who,
Yeah.
by the way, they share blood because they're brothers. So,
Mm-hmm.
like, maybe walk outside, touch grass,
Yeah.
go seek help, find a counselor, check yourself into a mental institution if you actually have problems with this. Yes, he's Mr. Philadelphia, and he's been going out of his way to be Mr. Philadelphia. He's allowed to root for his brother.
Yep.
Just shut up. All right.
Yeah.
Sorry. That's
He
been
put
kind
out
of
a great statement afterwards that because he took a couple days to kind of put out his thoughts, which I think was like he deserves that, right? Like that's there are very few people who have been in a place like that, right?
Yeah.
That's like this is the team I spent my entire life with and the brothers in a non-blood way that I spent my entire life with and then my biological brother who's beat me before at a Super Bowl that I still want to root for. Like this is that's such a conundrum emotionally and psychologically. Like he's allowed to feel both ways.
Yep.
That's the human experience. So I think the people who are mad about that need to go touch grass and find friends.
There's like 4 people in the world that can actually relate to what he just went through.
Yeah, literally.
And
Yep.
at the end of the day, like, yeah, just it's fine. All right.
Yeah.
So I wanted to get that out of the way because it's been pissing me off.
Okay.
And I got very angry on Twitter as that was all happening. But yeah, I'm kind of just going to go down a list and talk about like the
Okay.
major characters in this story.
Okay.
And I'm going to start with the MVP of the Super Bowl. The quarterback, number one, Jalen Hurts. I want to start by just saying, like, what I want to ask, what did you see out of Hurts in this game? Did it change your opinion of him? Like, what were your takeaways?
So I've been, like, not as a Philadelphia Eagles fan. A lot of people who are not Philadelphia Eagles fans are very anti-Jalen Hurts. And I think that's partially just from the way play design goes with the Philadelphia Eagles of late, especially with Saquon Barkley. And I can understand that from a perspective of, I'm not trying to say they're like people who think that are dumb, but like from a just watching clips perspective. But
I
if
would
you
even say
can,
just looking at the stats.
yeah, like stats and clips, but understanding play design and like the matchups and stuff like that will help you understand Jalen Hurts a lot better. So I haven't ever been on the side that's like anti Jalen Hurts and that he stinks. But I think this game showed a little bit more dominance from me than I expected. A little bit like he's always been fairly poised in my eyes, but I saw it a lot clearer during this game, where I felt like he had some of the best reads he's had in games where he's throwing more than average, especially in this past year. I think he very clearly had better reads. You could tell him going through read progressions at a better rate, and it just felt like it's almost like you can't describe it, held himself better, right? Like he dominated that entire offense every single time a toe was on that grass. And I think that was something I'd been looking for from him, because he does have that demeanor, right? That like he doesn't want to be on the press tour. He's kind of just here type of vibe. You know, he loves the game, you know, he loves his brothers, but you kind of look for that like fierceness. And I feel like I saw that a lot in this game.
He hates losing more than he loves winning. I mean, he's
Yes.
said it before. He is a sociopath in the best type of way, but the stats also, they back up everything kind of that you just said. The highest EPA per dropback in a Super Bowl per True Media, EPA being expected points added or estimated points added. I forgot which. Number 3, Nick Foles in 2017 at 0.41. Tom Brady, number 2, 2017 at 0.47. And number 1, Jalen Hurts, 2024, 0.51. Meaning that is now the most efficient Super Bowl performance by a quarterback in NFL history. He also delivered his best performance of the season based on expected points added per pass play. And that means he had a 95th percentile game based on every quarterback performance this entire season. Another way to look at that is if you took every quarterback performance of every game of this entire season, all 260 of those that exist, Jalen Hurts was in the 95th percentile of all of those during this game. And by the way, he was also in the 95th percentile during the Commanders game in the NFC Championship. After completing 71.3% of his passes in Super Bowl LVII and 77.3% Sunday in Super Bowl licks, Hurts is now the most accurate passer in Super Bowl history with a 73.3 career completion percentage with a minimum of 50 attempts. And Hurts now has a career Super Bowl passer rating of 109.4, which is the 4th highest in NFL history, behind 3 Hall of Famers, Joe Montana, Terry Bradshaw, and Troy Aikman. All that to say is that Jalen Hurts has played in a Super Bowl twice, and he was, in the first one, the best player on the field. He didn't win. The second one, he was the MVP, and he deserved every bit of it. Because another piece of information that I think kind of goes unnoticed for a lot of people is with Jason Kelce retired now, all of the checks at the line and the moving protection around, all of that fell on Jalen Hurts this year, and he was magnificent at it all season. There was a lot of times where he was either calling his own number, he was checking to a run with Saquon that a lot of the time went for a 60-yard touchdown because of what Jalen Hurts saw in front of him, or he was, audibling to a pass play that he thought, worked best against whatever coverage he was seeing. He was magnificent at that all year, and that just goes into what
it was great in the Super Bowl. I watched a lot of film breakdown, specifically on like RPOs and changing the play at the line of scrimmage. The one that stood out a lot to me was the one Devontae Smith on the sideline.
Oh,
yeah, that one where you can the finger, you can see him give the finger guns.
Yep.
He has like a difference, like he has, he changes
Yep.
it right there. That play, which was like a really big play at the moment, was like getting to see how he could read. Like that's what I'm saying. I and a lot of that comes from film breakdown, and I'm not perfect. I'm still learning reading defensive coverages every day, but like watching that really gives you so much perspective on how he's changed in that regard without Jason Kelce.
And ultimately, Jalen Hurts might never throw for 4,500 yards in a single season. He might not.
Mm-hmm.
And that's fine because the stats might not show it, but there's very few quarterbacks in the league that you could look at and say what the Eagles offensive staff said over the bye week, which was, we need you to do these things and these things only, which is we're going to run the ball with Saquon, who, by the way, just had set the record for most single season rushing yards, including the playoffs in a single season. We're going to run the ball with Saquon. You're going to run the ball, and you're going to take care of the ball, which means we're not going to take unnecessary risks. You're not going to throw interceptions because our defense is great and our run game is great. And that resulted in an extremely efficient season for Jalen Hurts with not a lot of turnovers. And no, he didn't throw the ball nearly as much as he has in the past. And in general, his stats weren't as impressive. But come Super Bowl time, when Steve Spagnuolo said, okay, we're going to make Jalen Hurts beat us, Saquon Barkley ran 25 times for 57 yards. Guess what Jalen Hurts did? He knocked those motherfuckers out. It wasn't...
Yeah. It literally felt like the Chiefs only watched film with Saquon Barkley running the ball.
And that's what you need out of your quarterback, which is a guy who is just going to do what you need them to do to win a game, because all he cares about is winning. Truly. Like, a lot of people say that. There's very few people I believe that more about than Jalen Hurts. I said on this podcast 2-3 years ago, maybe, that I think Jalen Hurts is the closest thing we've had to Michael Jordan in the NFL since probably Tom Brady, or, in professional sports since Tom or Kobe. Everything after the Super Bowl has just, accentuated that opinion. Be it the Love Hurts Jordan, ad campaign, or the fact that he literally just keeps talking about, he's like, I hate losing more than I like winning. And that's why I want to win, is so I don't lose. It's not because he wants to win. It's because he doesn't want to lose.
Yep.
Like, that is insane. And that's Jalen Hurts. And honestly, at the end of the day, I think anyone that's telling you that they would prefer, and I'm not saying that Lamar Jackson will never win a Super Bowl. I hope he does. I'm rooting for him. But if you could pick to have one of two quarterbacks this season, and for what they gave you, Lamar Jackson having one of the greatest statistical quarterback seasons of all time, or Jalen Hurts, who had an okay season statistically, but my faith in him never faltered. Not for a second. And that was just proven right in the last two games of the season, the two most important games of the season, ultimately the only game that mattered, the Super Bowl. Jalen Hurts showed up in a way that he has done 2 out of 2 times in the Super Bowl. And that's what I'd rather have. Because, by the way, as a Sixers fan, I have the other one. I love Joel Embiid, and I do hope that he shows up in the playoffs. But I know what the other one feels like, and this feels better. So,
yeah.
That's my quarterback.
Yeah, he was a delight to watch. I'm wearing my Alabama sweatshirt because he still belongs to us.
He's mine. So
we still claim him. Well, he moved to Oklahoma after, but there was a lot of debate. And then he one of his like NBC Sunday Night Footballs, where they say where they're from, said, Jalen Hurts rolls sooner, and he combined the two. So we're legally allowed to claim him again. So
that's fine. He's mine.
Yeah.
So
that's fine. He's also ours.
Next.
And we had Devontae Smith.
Oh, yes. Which, by the way, all he does is show up in big games, and his trophy case is ridiculous.
Tiny little guy, string bean.
I love him. Slim Reaper. Next is maybe the second most disrespected man in Philadelphia. Possibly not anymore, and that is Nick Sirianni.
Getting a Gatorade bath with that much time left?
Getting a Gatorade bath before the Chiefs scored a touchdown.
Yeah.
Or maybe before they scored 2 touchdowns. I forget.
One.
Regardless.
It was the long one.
Yeah.
That was the only.
against
That was
the
the last
second
one.
stringers. Like
Mhm.
we don't need to get into that. All Nick
After
Sirianni
almost being
does is win.
fired.
Like he now has, I'm just going to read off some of the stats to start. He has the second most wins all time in the first 4 seasons as a head coach with a 48-20 record. The first is George Seifert with the Niners at 52 wins. If you include the playoffs, it's 54 and 57 wins. He has the 5th best win percentage all time among coaches. Just
That's
all
wild.
time. At 70.6%, and he also has the best win percentage among all active head coaches. Fun fact, can you guess who the second best win percentage among active head coaches is?
I mean, is it Andy Reid?
No.
That would be. Who else has been active that long?
It's not necessarily about length. It's win percentage.
Oh God.
But like they've coached a couple years. It's not like a.
Just tell me.
Jim Harbaugh.
Ah.
Yeah, it shocked me a little bit, but it made sense because he never
Interesting.
really lost in San Francisco.
Yeah.
Nick Sirianni is also the first head coach in NFL history to beat a coach 20 plus years older than him to win the Super Bowl. Never really
stats like that.
Yeah, before then they were 0-8. And that was Super Bowl or pre-Super Bowl era. So that's very interesting. I found that. I just thought it was very interesting. But ultimately, during this playoff run, the Eagles committed 1 turnover, which was the Hurts interception in the Super Bowl. Meanwhile, they had 13 takeaways. The plus 12 turnover margin was the best for any team during a single postseason since the year 2000. And ultimately, the question surrounding Nick Sirianni was, what does he bring to the table? And for a long time, the answer was the culture and the trust of his guys and all that kind of stuff. And that faltered at the end of last year.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I was ever fully out. Feel free to give me a clip of me saying that I was. I think the most out I ever was the very beginning of this season, probably around after the Buccaneers lost.
Yeah, you were pretty out at the interview part where the
Yes.
where the owners and GM took him into an interview. I'm not saying you were fully out, but I know you were pretty out.
When he was almost fired.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I was definitely, I like Nick, and I was very, if they let him go, they let him go. But I also just trust Jeffrey Lurie with head coaches.
Mm-hmm.
He's very good at that. But ultimately, the things that he's good at are what won them this Super Bowl. He was aggressive, which I've wanted him to be. I think it's part of the reason they lost the last Super Bowl was they weren't aggressive enough, and he tends to be aggressive. After the weird debacles at the beginning of this season, they made the right decisions constantly. He was never really putting them in a position to lose the game, which is really what a head coach should be doing. Just don't lose the team the game, especially when you're this talented. Yeah. On top of that, the guys fought for him. And this is not an easy team to be a star player on because there's so many star players. A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, both getting paid a lot of money. Saquon Barkley, a lot of highly paid offensive linemen. Dallas Goedert. All these guys want their touches. Jahan Dotson was a first-round pick 2 years ago. All these guys want their touches. They all put it aside, and that doesn't happen without Nick Sirianni. All he's done is win since becoming the Eagles head coach. And he now won on the biggest stage. And yes, he has passion. And that can sometimes be his worst quality, but it's also his best quality because he stays true to himself. And the team knows that. So
personally, on a vibe level, I still don't like him. But
I don't want anyone to like him. Nobody should, to be honest.
Yeah, I really don't.
You're wrong, but like it's fine.
I will say that, and it's not even so much as a coach. Again, it's like on a vibe level.
Yeah, it's as a person. I don't like him as a person.
Yeah.
Which again, we're from Philly, fucking Philly. No one likes us. We don't care. He epitomizes that.
Yeah. He didn't really cry at the national anthem this time. He looked like he was trying to, but he didn't. No, we were guessing on that. On regards to aggressiveness, I kept an eye on specifically you talked about in the Super Bowl preview regards to field goals, the aggressiveness in copping out for field goals. And I felt after you had pointed that out to me that I paid attention more to that specific stat you gave me, and I could tell they were actively avoiding that. Like they put themselves in situations to actively avoid that.
Yeah, and I will say there were very few opportunities for him to be like game-changingly aggressive. because of the game that this was ultimately.
Yeah.
I do love the clip of him and Kellen Moore on the sideline right before they called the Devontae Smith pass. He's like, "Look, if we score, it's over. Call it." And that's when
I give a lot of props to Kellen Moore. A lot of props to Kellen Moore.
You're up 24-0. Nick Sirianni says, "Go for it. This is the dagger." They score the touchdown. That's when you won the Super Bowl. Like, you won.
Kellen Moore is now news. Kellen Moore is now the head coach for the New Orleans Saints.
Yep.
The Eagles promoted, what was his name? Kevin Patullo to offensive coordinator. I will say Kellen Moore, I think, should stay an offensive coordinator. I think he's better at it, but
he's never been a head coach.
See how it goes.
I'm excited. I debated with this a lot. He felt like he was a hot candidate for like 4 years. And now he's finally walking into a position, and honestly, it's one of the worst positions you can be in. Of the 32 head coaching spots, like, I don't know if there's many that are worse. Honestly, for a number of reasons, but which we'll talk about eventually. But I don't care. He won us a Super Bowl, and he called the best game of the season in the Super Bowl, unlike Jonathan Gannon. So shout out to Kellen Moore.
Yeah, and I do think he's come into his own as an offensive coordinator a lot. I do think part of that does help with his promotion to head coach for an organization, because, in his tenure with the Chargers,
1 year.
Tenure, you know what I mean, though. Like his time with.
I know you didn't mean 10 years.
His time with the Chargers, he carried over a lot of what he did with the Cowboys, and I don't think that that's easily transferable to a lot of other places, as is some other gigs. The Cowboys are the Cowboys, right? So I think he carried that with him a little bit, and seeing him come into his own with the Eagles has been really interesting to watch, because he has a fairly unique style, and I give him a lot of props for the way he's handled a team with a lot of talent that could go in 1,000 different directions with play calls and game plans.
I will say, while I do believe he's deserving of a head coach spot because of years of a track record, like pretty good success, if I was grading his Eagles season and I just kind of took out the Super Bowl because emotions, I give him like a B minus. Like, I don't think he was particularly spectacular, especially in the passing game. Like, I don't think he played to the strengths of Jalen as much as he should have. There were a lot of route concepts that it's just like, what are his options here? Like, so again, well, I wish him the best. I think he's there's a billion different reasons that could be. We're not really going to know, but yes, he's the head coach now. He's gone. But
I do wish him good luck, but I do think I'm going to stand on the fact that I think he's going to be one of those long-term offensive coordinators. I think that's where he's destined to be.
Especially when your first go at it is the Saints in this position. I hope I'm wrong. Yeah. Like, I hope he's very successful. I wish him the best. But yeah, it's a tough position to be in.
Yeah.
But moving on, I'm going to go into your favorite Eagle, Saquon Barkley. He only ran 25 times for 57 yards, averaging 2.3 yards per carry, which, based on rushing success rate, it was the worst game of Barkley's season. Which
he didn't give the guy a touchdown on his birthday.
He didn't care.
Another birthday guy got his touchdown.
He did, yes, Cooper Jean, which we'll get there. But ultimately, the thing that I love about Saquon Barkley is
he did not give a single.
They sold out to stop him, and he was like, "Great, sure, that's fine." And he ripped off a couple decent. Like, he didn't have that one. He didn't have that 20+ yard run that it felt like he got every game, but he had a couple like 8, 9, 10 yard runs where it's just like, great. Like, and also, you need to keep handing him the ball because that keeps the defense honest. And
they fell for him as a decoy often, and he actively participated in the pass blocking game.
He had some great pass protection.
I know.
That's
what I thought you were going to say when you were talking about the 20-yard runs, because it's like, I know, like that, like his performance in pass blocking was also incredibly crucial to what we talked about with Jalen Hurts, and having the extra protection. And Saquon Barkley's football IQ is incredibly high, and his ability to participate in schemes like that is useful to any quarterback.
Oh yeah, And it's useful to the offense because you can disguise what you're going to do. And he also had 6 catches for 40 yards. So, like, he had 97 total yards. Again, it wasn't a breakout game or anything, but he did break the record for the most single-season rushing yards in his first year as an Eagle.
Did not get MVP.
He did not. So, whatever. He'll have to settle for Offensive Player of the Year and a 2,000-yard season and the rushing title.
And the Super Bowl championship.
And a Super Bowl championship. He did have one of my favorite quotes of the weekend, which it started with, "Where do they find these horses?" As he saw videos of people riding down Broad Street on horses right after the Eagles' victory on Sunday night. I agree. Where do they find these horses?
Where do they find these horses?
However, that's fine. But then he says, he was talking in general about Philly fans. He says, like the things they do. I saw there was a young gentleman in a wheelchair, and Philly fans had him in the wheelchair, and he's crowd surfing. You don't see that side of the Philly fans a lot, the loving side. So definitely got to shout out to them. He's an Eagle for life.
I hate Pennsylvania.
He gets it. He was always an Eagle, really, truly in our hearts. Penn State had a great post. It was like, giant. Oh, that was a good one. Giant risk, giant reward. Penn State was like born in Pennsylvania.
Yeah. Played in Jersey.
No, but they skipped it. It was like born in PA, college in PA, or born in PA, came back to PA, won in PA, something like that. Penn State football had a good post about it, but yeah, it's really cool because he's an Eagles legend forever. Like you can't write a storybook better for Saquon Barkley than what happened this year. Just objectively, it's incredible.
You're so objective,
but like for real though, objectively, I don't.
I know
he was the main character of this NFL season.
Absolutely, and listen, I'm not making a claim that you're not. I know neither of us are fully objective.
No.
We're both trying to be a little bit better about that. But
today I'm not.
Not today, it's fine.
No.
But as opposing fans, that's quite hard. But I can agree that watching Saquon Barkley do what he did, if I could like use the severance chip in my brain to forget that I was a Giants fan, would be one of the coolest things I've seen. Because his love for football, first of all, bleeds through. Like his passion and desire to win was incredible, and that's a lot of because what he went through with the Giants, that poor man. And he just wanted to play and do what he knew he could do, back to like rookie Saquon. And getting to see that again was incredible. And just his love for having his family in a place that he's loved his entire life. Again, he went to college in Pennsylvania, came back to Pennsylvania for a reason, grew up in Pennsylvania, and the love he has, like taking football out of it, like the love he has for those teammates, for the city in general, has been really incredible. So to see him kind of champion this run as a person who's just a fan of Saquon Barkley as a person. Like I've said that through and through. Like I am a Giants fan, but I think I'm like a Saquon Barkley fan as a person first when it comes to that. And I really am truly happy for him.
And yeah, he's an incredible person. He's so incredibly easy to root for. Because he does everything the right way. Like he's a great teammate. He's an awesome leader.
He's super active in all of the communities he's been a part of.
I love Saquon. So I don't think anyone was actually disappointed in his Super Bowl performance because he wasn't, No. So now
maybe.
Yeah, maybe. Well, maybe. The rest of the offensive line was great. AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, and Jahan Dotson all had impact plays, which was cool. Devontae Smith, obviously, with the biggest sort of dagger of the game, an incredible call of that. That will kind of echo in my mind forever. It's like they're going to try and run out some clock here, or maybe they'll call the dagger, and it was just incredible. But just a really special moment. But I want to go to the other side of the ball, the defense, which honestly, if I was giving the MVP award to anyone other than Howie Roseman, it's probably Vic Fangio. You can't give it to a coach, which is kind of unfair. And obviously Jalen is deserving of it. But Vic Fangio had the game of his life as a lifelong football guy.
Best way to describe
lifer, however they normally call it. Like he finally got to win a Super Bowl, and he did it by just calling his game. So
I didn't see any of him from the parade. How was his attitude, his demeanor?
Oh, he doesn't give a shit.
Okay, that's what I
Excited, but, like,
expected, and I
I
wanted to
think
make sure.
he cracked like one smile in the locker room after the game.
Okay.
And then I think I sent you a video of him like walking away in the hallway, and the tweet said like, "Oh, he's
Yeah,
gone
like,
to the
oh,
draft
he's already
room."
on the draft club, the
Yeah.
draft board. Yeah.
And
I saw that. I just didn't know with the parade. Sometimes the parade people get a couple beers at him and you're like, who that man has been replaced with a clone.
Oh no, that
But
was Quinyon Mitchell.
yeah. Okay, yeah, I saw those.
Quinyon
but
Mitchell
yeah.
was very drunk. It
Yeah.
was incredible. So I'm going to read some stats. In terms of EPA per pass play, this was the second worst game of Mahomes' entire career. But again, the garbage time drives mask just how bad it was. If we look at Mahomes' performance through the first three quarters, this was the worst game of his career based on both EPA per pass play and success rate.
He had 23 yards in the first half.
Less than the Eagles had points. If we look at a sample of 553 qualifying quarterback games this season, Mahomes' performance through the first three quarters ranked 539th. Think of the worst quarterback performances you've seen this season, and that's what the Eagles and Vic Fangio made Patrick Mahomes look like. Shout out to Sheil Kapadia from The Ringer.
And they didn't blitz once, right?
Yeah. So let's see. I do have that here somewhere. Yes. The Eagles generated a pressure rate of 38.1% on Sunday. I'm pretty sure at halftime it was at like 50% or something.
Yeah.
Absolutely
It was something
insane.
like that. Yeah. It
And
was one of the most he's ever.
They did not blitz once.
That's my that's the thing. Okay. Like the rest of it is like, okay, cool. People have bad days. People have good days on defense. They didn't blitz once and they generated a first half pressure rate of 50%. That's absurd.
Yes.
That's unheard of.
Jalen Carter was almost always double teamed by the Chiefs' best two offensive linemen. And that left everyone else on islands against shaky offensive linemen. Josh Sweat had a game that is going to get him paid big time in free agency. Milton Williams came in with a fumble, a forced fumble that's going to get him paid in free agency. Rookie Jalix Hunt, who, by the way, everyone said was just like a heat check from Howie. He notched half a sack. Jordan Davis, the nose tackle who doesn't rush the passer, had a sack. I don't actually think Nolan Smith had a sack. I can't remember off the top of my head.
He did not.
But he had some incredible plays.
He had pressures. I think he had a QB hit, but he didn't have a sack.
And he
had QB hits.
He had pressures. And Brandon Graham drew a very key holding call on what would have been a Chiefs first down. So shout out to Brandon Graham, lifelong Eagle, most games played all time in an Eagles uniform. Likely his last game as an Eagle, but gets to go out as a champion after being on injured reserve for most of this, or since like week 8 or something. Incredible way for him to walk out. But I've got a little bit more for you. The Chiefs' offensive performance in the first half was the worst by any team in the NFL this season, based on both offensive success rate and EPA per play. That is out of 570 games.
That's insane.
Think of any game that you watch this season. Think of the first half and how both teams performed. This offensive first half by the Chiefs was worse. That was Vic Fangio. Did that to Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid.
That's it, like almost exactly one full season of the entire NFL. Every single game played by every single team.
No, it is one whole season.
That's what I'm saying. Like that's what that is. Like I needed to calculate the number to make sure. I was not going to say that out of term, but that's exactly what it is. It's the worst performance out of an entire season of play from every single 32 teams in the NFL.
Yep.
Yeah.
All 18 weeks of the NFL plus the entire playoffs. This was the worst first half by any team.
23 yards. 23 yards.
23 yards. They gave up 24 points. Real quick shout out to Cooper DeJean. Not a safety.
Cooper DeJean is not a safety.
Was the first player to ever score a touchdown on his birthday in the Super Bowl.
Yes.
The second player to ever do it in an NFL championship game. Do you know the other team or the other team or player?
No.
Steve Van Buren of the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah, well, that's the answer. I forget to act like a radio host when I do this this gag.
I like that it's really not always a gag for you. Most of the time, you actually are like, huh.
Sometimes I'm just like, huh, that's so fun. Like that. Sometimes I get wrapped up in the fun of it.
Yeah, you shouldn't.
And I forget the bit.
Yeah. Although to be honest, I mean, that is just a cool stat. I was shocked that the other single other player was an Eagle.
Happens to be an Eagle.
But yeah, Cooper
DeJean. It was sick. That was sick. And yeah, the whole cinematography of it was incredible.
Beautiful.
It was just like right into him. Duncan and I have had a running
15-year NFL vet.
Yeah, Duncan and I have had a running bit all season. Yeah, so we had a running bit all season where I would text him Mayo and then Mustard anytime he did something special, because originally I forgot like Mustard is really what it is, so I called him Mayo for a while, but he's also white, so both of them make sense. So Mayo and Mustard got to get texted during the Super Bowl.
Yeah, his first NFL pick ever. And
yeah, that's great.
Patrick Mahomes on his birthday in the Super Bowl, with an incredible run back, but also just like, if you really go back and watch what he did to get that pick, it's not like it was a gimme. It was he read Mahomes from start to finish. He faked him out. He beat Mahomes one-on-one on that play, and he earned that pick.
Yep, there was a really great. I think it was the guy who was singing "Cooper DeJean is not a safety" did a really great breakdown of that. Like he
normally that's CJGJ, but
but he did that. Like the guy sang it at the beginning, and there's a whole big TikTok about specific, like a literal 5-minute video about that specific play. But I love that there's some guys on TikTok you cannot count their analysis, but he's really good. That's what I wanted to say though regarding all of the defensive players you had just read off. Was a huge part of this was about the defense's ability to read Mahomes to filth, right? Like he could not get a single accurate read in because of the disguising of coverages, because of the way they uniquely used nickels throughout a lot of the game. And it's not something that stood out to me. And again, I don't watch as many full Philadelphia Eagles games as you do throughout a season.
I do watch a couple,
just a few, but it not something that stood out to me as much in watching them throughout the year as it did here, where it was like so clear to see their use of nickel coverage.
This was just the best example because it just worked flawlessly. It's Vic Fangio doing what he does, which is he does the same thing on every play, but he also doesn't. He starts it too high. He does 2 high safeties every play. And then one of the safeties after the play starts, one of the safeties will roll down. Maybe the nickel will fall back. The coverage will completely change after the play begins. And that's why it's not like you can get a ton of information before the play because everything looks the same. Obviously, bits and pieces to that. But incredible game. And do you remember the name of the player that got the second interception for the Eagles?
Not the guy.
Come on.
Who was? It's not Bond, right?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. Well, not but what's the name? Bohm, not Bohm. That's what I'm trying to say. I couldn't remember the wrong name this time. I said the right name this time.
I just wanted
not Bohm.
Learn his name, for fuck's sake. He's a Super Bowl champion.
I know.
I hate you. He deserves respect. That is the bald eagle.
Listen, I sent out a tweet about him. Gave you some props. Sent out a tweet about him with a clip about it because you've been riding that horse for quite some time. That if his name was different, if his name was Patrick Queen, he would be up for Defensive Player of the Year.
No, he was up for it. He would have won.
He would have won. Sorry,
if his name was Patrick Queen or Fred Warner, he would have won Defensive Player of the Year.
Yes. You've been riding that horse, so I gave him some cool props because it was cool to see him kind of be like, yeah, that's who I am.
It's just it's an incredible. It would be an incredible story if he just had a good season. He never played middle linebacker. He was plucked off the Saints roster as a free agent, and all he was there was a situational pass rusher. He comes to Philly with Vic Fangio. He slots in at a position that he's never played before, and he goes on to have one of the best linebacking seasons actually in history, but also in Philadelphia Eagles history. And he just did it the whole time. Like there was never a falter. You kept kind of waiting for the wheels to fall off, and you're like, okay, well, when is this gonna revert back to the mean a little bit? It's like, no, even in the Super Bowl, he does this thing. I think he was probably a forced fumble and a sack away from winning MVP, but I still liked that bet regardless. So shout out to all of them, all those guys. Quinyon Mitchell, I don't think you heard his name once, and that's just the epitome of his entire season, because ultimately he's just that good. There was one play in particular where they shout out to the announcers, Tom Brady, is they showed in the slow-mo replay, like, Mahomes wanted to hit Xavier Worthy down the left side of the field deep. And he had to, that was the play call. That's what he wanted. And he couldn't throw it because of Quinyon. And it ended up going for a loss or a very short run by Mahomes or something like that. And you look on like the all 22 afterward, and Quinyon was just a blanket over him. Quinyon is just spectacular. He's not going to get the attention he deserves because quarterbacks will not throw at him. And that's like, he's a rookie. And Rita Mahomes decided, no, we're not going to test him. That's Rita Mahomes saying, we are not going to test this 22-year-old dude in his first NFL. That is ridiculous. So
I'm going to keep you on track here. I want you to speed through these next couple. I know it's going to be a little hard, but I do want to just have a quick conversation about the Chiefs after, and we're running out of some time.
A little hard. Jake Elliott. Here are some stats about Jake Elliott. Number 1 in most Super Bowl field goals made, 7. Number 1 in Super Bowl field goal percentage, 100%. Number 2 in playoff field goal percentage at 96.3%. Jesus. Number 8 in playoff field goals all time, 26. Number 9 in playoff points all time, 114. Also, the most points by a kicker in a Super Bowl with 16 this past game. And by the way, the most false starts I've ever seen on field goals, 3 of them. Not really sure what that was. The only thing that went wrong for the team that day. And by the way, Jake drilled all of them, plus when they were moved back 5 yards.
And was iced and still drilled it. When he was iced, I was like, oh man, because he's had a rough season. Like compared to the Jake Elliott of last year and the years prior, he had a rough season. So when he was iced that one time, I was like, oh.
He gave us heart attacks all year. But you've heard me.
Did you sweat it when he was kicking?
No, I didn't.
During the Super Bowl? No,
I didn't because, this is a battle. I can send you screenshots later.
Okay.
This is a battle I've been waging with some of my friends all season, because they'll text me when Jake Elliott misses a kick. They're like, "Are you worried now?" And I'm like, "No, I'm not, because he's Jake Elliott. I'm not worried." And what did he do in the Super Bowl? He came through in the clutch because he's a clutch ass motherfucker, and also, he's sort of low-key on the path to a Hall of Fame career, just based on those numbers and the longevity that he could possibly have in this NFL. He may or may not have been battling an injury this season. That's kind of unclear. But assuming he can bounce back next year and go back to kind of what he was last year, I think, he's going to be around. He just signed a contract extension. He's going to be around for a while. But at the end of the day, in a clutch, in a big moment, I trust Jake Elliott, and that's
he's already won the an MVP and Hall of Fame career in my heart for what he did for me in fantasy football last year. So
I thought you were going to say because of the 61-yard game.
No, because of the what he did in fantasy football for me last year.
That's fair.
Yeah.
All right. Last 2 guys I want to talk about. The first of which is Howie Roseman. I'm going to real quick read all the picks that the Eagles have made in rounds 1 through 3 of the last 4 NFL drafts. And just tell me when I get to a player that isn't good. This is 2024. Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, Jalix Hunt. Jalix Hunt was a heat check who just had a half a sack in a Super Bowl. 2023, Jalen Carter, Nolan Smith, Tyler Steen, Sidney Brown. Tyler Steen filled in admirably when he had to this season at guard. And Sidney Brown was off to a promising rookie and then tore his something or another. But again, for the end of the 3rd round pick, not bad. 2022, Jordan Davis, Cam Jurgens, Nakobe Dean, all starters this year. And Nakobe Dean had a great season before getting injured. Cam Jurgens took over for Jason Kelsey and didn't miss a beat. And then back to 2021, Devontae Smith, Landon Dickerson, Milton Williams, the first 2 of which are every down starters and very important. Milton Williams he was probably the best pass rusher at defensive tackle, short of Jalen Carter this season, and is about to get paid a crap ton of money to be a full-time player somewhere. And anywhere else, he would be a full-time player already. Howie Roseman's on a bit of a streak.
What's the center's name? I was
Cam
going to say
Jurgens.
something. Cam Jurgens. So I think that's genuinely one of the unsung heroes of the season is Cam Jurgens, and that's just centers as a whole. But filling in for Jason Kelce with a quarterback like Hurts, with a running back like Barkley, I think Cam Jurgens has been a true unsung hero of the Philadelphia Eagles this season.
He's been incredible. He's been absolutely incredible. Also, Landon Dickerson needs surgery. That's a thing. He was in the locker room with an IV in one hand, walking around with an IV and then a beer in the other hand, which was kind of incredible, and I respect him for it. But he is getting.
Who was the one with a cigarette and the cigar?
That was Jake Elliott.
There you go. Yeah, I couldn't put a face to it, but I can see the yeah.
I know he was kicking field goals with beer cans.
That was
a
vibe. Yeah,
his wife was the holder. It was kind of beautiful. I'm not much into
Landon Dickerson is going to have doctors pop the hood on his knee. There you go.
Yep. He's a man. So Howie Roseman's really good. And honestly, he's going to be in the Hall of Fame one day. He built maybe one of the best rosters in NFL history this season. What he does with the cap, with trades, is unparalleled in the NFL right now. And a large part of that is due to the last guy I want to talk about. But I want to give Howie Roseman his flowers, because after everything he went through with Chip Kelly getting moved to the far end of the storage closet, whatever, coming back, regaining control, building not one, not two, but 3 Super Bowl worthy rosters. 2 of which, by the way, are massively different in a 5-year period. Knowing when to get off of thought to be franchise quarterbacks, such as Carson Wentz, getting a first for Sam Bradford, moving on from Nick Foles, moving on from Carson Wentz, and turning Carson Wentz into, I believe it's A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Jalen Carter, and Cooper DeJean, I think is what it ended up being. He's going to be a Hall of Famer. I think he's the greatest GM currently in the NFL, and I think, he's incredible. And last but not least, Jeffrey Lurie, the owner of the Philadelphia Eagles, and I've been saying at least for a year now that I think he's the best owner in the NFL and maybe the best owner in professional American sports, because of what he does for this team and the advantages that he allows this team to have in the way that he manages the money and pays for things. And you look at the biggest name of all the owners in the NFL, Jerry Jones. He's a cheap ass motherfucker who is making guys like Michael Parsons, who knows what's going to happen with his contract, but CeeDee Lamb, Dak Prescott sign overinflated deals because they wait until the very last minute. Dak Prescott's cap hit next season, I believe, is like $97 million.
It's the same way they lost Mike McCarthy or got rid of, whatever you want to call it. They just waited too long, and then they were like, "Guy, we don't know what to do anymore. Sorry, you got to go." It's
for a franchise that was historically not very good since that 1960s period. Since Jeffrey Lurie bought the team, I knew I was forgetting some stats, but we have the second most playoff wins of any franchise, behind only the Patriots. The second most, I think, wins of any franchise behind the Patriots. I think since the year 2000, we've been to the most NFC championship games of any franchise. Obviously, we've won 2 Super Bowls, been to 4. His stats are incredible. He cares about it. He's passionate about the city, the things that he does for the city, just in general. The Eagles Autism Foundation is massive. They do a lot of amazing charity work. The players absolutely adore him. And I've said before, his ability to hire head coaches, especially guys that no one else is looking at, is really, really, really incredible. I just can't say enough amazing things about Jeffrey Lurie. Knowing what it feels like to have bad owners, I hate Josh Harris with all of my heart.
Yeah.
I try not to take for granted what we have in Jeffrey Lurie, knowing that you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it for me comes down to the fact of the leeway and the leash he gives Howie Roseman specifically, but also head coaches in some regard. I think we were both kind of very surprised about the whole Nick Sirianni interview conversation at the end of the season last year, because the timing of it and like the execution of it was not what you had expected from Lurie. And to see the leash he's given Roseman in his game of chess, I think for me what makes that stand out most, because a lot of owners are not like that nowadays, not even close. So to see him still be newer, like, you know, like he's not one of these super old heads involved here, and have this newer perspective of giving people leeway is pretty cool to see.
And I don't know if there's a better trio of head coach, GM, and owner in the NFL. There probably isn't, that I would take over this set of three guys. Because even the Chiefs, it's like you look at like I think it's The Athletic that does those player ranking stuff of
the report cards.
The Chiefs rank horribly.
Yeah,
like, they don't rank well.
31st last year or something.
And the Eagles, they're big. Like you notice from one year to the next, the thing they were worst at 2 years ago, they rocketed up into the top 5 because Jeffrey Lurie saw that, said, "Oh, all right, we'll buy a second private jet so everyone can stretch out more, and we'll improve the." I think it was like one of the
like the report cards even go into like childcare during games so that family members can still participate. So like several teams have daycares within the stadium so that the other parent can still go watch and participate and have fun at the game while the child is in daycare. Like at the stadium. They're like, that's how in-depth those report cards go.
I don't think there's a better run franchise in the NFL than the Eagles. Mm-hmm. And that's really easy to say after they won a Super Bowl. But I think if you asked me the same thing this time last year, I would have said the same. I think if you asked me 3 years ago, I probably would have said the same. And yet, even though we don't have a dynasty, the Chiefs, the Patriots, the sustained success we've had from the year 2000, not just through one single regime, I think speaks for itself. It's because, since Bill Belichick and Tom Brady, the Patriots have been and granted, it's been 1 year, a couple years since Tom, but 1 year since Bill. The Chiefs, outside of, having Andy, haven't been anything special. But the Eagles, it was Andy. It was Doug. It was Chip even for 2 years, but then Jeffrey Lurie knowing when to pull the string, and now Nick. Like, I don't think there's an organization I feel better about confidence-wise than the Philadelphia Eagles.
All right. Like 2 more minutes and then we'll wrap it up. Like 2 sentences where and how it went wrong for the Chiefs.
They woke up that morning.
Period. The end.
They had to play Jalen Hurts.
Yeah.
They asked Jalen to beat them.
Oh, okay.
And he obliged. Love Hurts.
I think a lot of it comes down to their ineffectiveness and inability to spread out the offense. They have been fairly one-dimensional all year. We've talked about this a lot, in that it just didn't look like good football all year for anyone. And I think that really came around. I know I had said like it felt like one of those times where Mahomes might do the thing where it's like, it's been like that all season, but look at this. And he didn't. He couldn't. No. He could not overcome the confusion in his reads in a way that I would have expected him to, at least in some regard. Like there was none. There were no flashes of Mahomes in the way that you see highlight reels on SportsCenter. There was none of that.
Well, there was, but it was against the second stringers.
Yeah, it was literally at the as there was a Gatorade bath.
The best throw of the whole game.
Yeah.
Against Sidney Brown and Tristan McCollum. Like, shut the hell up.
Yeah. So that's a huge failure for me. And the defense is what feels like unpreparedness, which I don't want to say because I do in whole like their defense, respect their defense coordinator, the whole shebang. I think that's been the key to their success over the past couple of years in Super Bowls. But it seems like they spent 2 weeks only watching film on Saquon Barkley and not preparing themselves for how to adapt. There felt like there was never a change. You and I have so many conversations about locker room changes and halftime changes and this and that, and like it's really hard to do and it's not really a thing, but figure it out.
Andy Reid's one of the best at
they
that.
They couldn't. Yes, and that's what I'm saying. Like the Chiefs, you can see go into the locker room, come out of locker room with a better even just game plan idea. Like, right? There's a little you see them testing it out in the first few plays and then they're back. They got a new game going on. Never once saw that. Not with the offense, not with the defense, and that's something I would have expected out of this defense. They were not able to adapt. They were not able to overcome. Any thoughts? Any last thoughts?
Last thoughts.
Well, I have 2 more questions for you really quick after. But
okay, ask the questions and I'll see if.
Okay, favorite commercial?
I'm not sure I had one.
What?
They weren't good. I honest to God, the only one I can remember is the one with all the weird hat heads, and I didn't like it. It made me really.
A lot of outrage over the Cool Whip commercial, which I wouldn't have expected because it was weird, but it was funny. Mine is the bathroom break. Loved the Angel Soft
that was
bathroom
good.
break.
No, that was good.
Loved
that. Was killer. Okay,
loved that.
That's my favorite. Top 10.
I also funniest comment of the night goes out to Tom Brady saying that he's the good luck charm for the Philadelphia Eagles.
I think the comment of the night actually went to Nick Foles, who said it first and said,
"Oh yes, wow,
it's incredible that Tom Brady has been there for both of the." Nick Foles,
so good
from the top rope, just out of nowhere. This man live tweeting the game and just spanking Tom Brady for no apparent reason. I love it.
Yeah, that was great. And how'd you like the halftime show?
Oh, I loved it.
So did I.
Yeah, no, I think it was just very good. It was more or less exactly what I wanted. Poignant. I could have used one Not Like Us like 4 more times because why not?
Yeah.
But yeah, well done. And
very poignant.
Yeah. I do have a couple of final thoughts that I didn't get to say.
You have like a minute and a half.
This team is the greatest the greatest modern Eagles team of all time, and maybe one of the best, if not the best, modern teams of all time. They spent a total of 5 minutes and 43 seconds trailing this entire postseason. Which, by the way, the speech done by the mayor at the Super Bowl parade was 5 minutes and 13 seconds, 30 seconds shorter.
Please do not climb the light poles.
The Super Bowl victory capped off one of the most impressive playoff runs we've seen this century. The Eagles outscored their opponents by 68 points. Only the 2000 Ravens and the 2002 Bucks had higher margins of victory during their Super Bowl runs this quarter century. If we look at just the championship round of the Super Bowl, the Eagles outscored their opponents by 50 points, the most by any team in those 2 rounds since the year 2000. And they didn't get a break in their playoff path. 3 of their 4 opponents, the Packers, Commanders, and Chiefs, ranked in the top 10 of total DVOA. The 4th, the Rams, were 10th in offensive DVOA. So I just want to put it out there that it's one of the greatest teams we've ever seen, and they did that by spanking. Oh, no, this was the actual last thing, because I thought this was really clever, because I realized this.
Okay.
The Eagles are the only team to ever defeat Vince Lombardi, Bill Belichick, and Andy Reid / Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs. I believe that what the Philadelphia Eagles franchise truly is we're like a mythical being, kind of like Godzilla.
Goliath.
You know what?
No, David?
We would be David.
David, sorry, that's
Goliath
what I meant.
means big. Like, come on.
Yes, I got
No, I'm going deeper than that. Godzilla only ever wakes up when like Mothra comes out, or like it's been a while since I've watched the movie, but like when the Earth is threatened, like that's when he kind of wakes up and he's like, shit, here we go again. And it's like, I kind of think that the supernatural forces of the universe see a dynasty starting to like get a little too comfy or like be too impressive, and then they send the Eagles just to like throw a stone in it a little bit. They're like, Vince Lombardi, we're not going to let you go. We're going to stop you from three-peating, by the way. You're not going to three-peat. The Patriots would have three-peated without us. The Chiefs would have three-peated without us. I think we are a supernatural being. I don't know how it works, but I think there's something at play here that all we can really, really do is just stop dynasties. Like, we are Godzilla, essentially.
Did you see the girl in the stands with the voodoo doll of Patrick Mahomes?
I did, and I respect it.
Yeah.
You got to do what you got to do.
Yeah. Duncan, where can we find you?
I've got nothing.
What?
I refuse to move on to any of their Philadelphia sports that will just
Hurt you?
they'll hurt me.
Yeah.
But I'm also too happy, so I can't make a self-deprecating joke.
You'll be living with this, smiling.
Yeah, I guess I'll just be happy. You can find me happy.
Yay.
Which is nice. Or you can find me on Twitter. I like that. You can find me happy or on Twitter.
Or, yeah.
Which is pretty fitting. You can find me on Twitter at mpduncan75. The Eagles are Super Bowl champions, and so am I.
You can find me on Twitter at Ashley_Marie with 2 A's and Ashley. You can find me, Duncan, and the entire Undroppables crew on our Discord channels, which you can gain access to by becoming a patron at patreon.com/theundroppables as you gear up for your dynasty leagues that start to kick more into season in a prep for rookies. It's a great place to be. You can find us anywhere you listen to podcasts, on YouTube to watch us back if you would like to see Duncan's jersey and hat that he talked to you about in the beginning of the show. We are here Wednesdays, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Before I sign off, I want to say thank you all for your patience and understanding this season. It has been a little bit spottier of a season for us. We've had a lot of life transitioning and changes and growth, but we will be here, and as we get a better idea of our schedule and our plans for the off season, we will keep you posted. We thank you all for sticking with us. We hope you had a wonderful season. Everyone say congratulations, Michael Duncan.
Thank you.
You're welcome. We will see you soon. Have a great night.
Go Birds.
Bye.